Hi, welcome to my review of Bioshock Infinite Burial at Sea, Episode 1, developed by Irrational Games, a DLC that takes place in Rapture during the New Year's Eve of 1958 and follows Booker Dewitt and Elizabeth as they investigate the disappearance of a little girl, Sally. Okay, so here I am once again doing another video game review and not a movie review because, well, the past few weeks nothing has been coming out in my area, or at least anything that I care about. But fortunately enough, next week Catching Fire comes out, so I will be doing a review of that, so next week I'll be getting back on track. But before I go further into my review, I do want to post a disclaimer basically stating that if you haven't beat Bioshock Infinite, or you have yet to play Bioshock Infinite and you want to go in completely cold, I would probably recommend perhaps maybe skipping this video and coming back to it after you played it. I'm not really going to be spoiling anything, I guess, specific, but there might be a few implications of what might have happened in Bioshock Infinite. So if you want to avoid that at all costs, then it's probably best, like I said, to skip this video. And trust me, Bioshock Infinite is a game you really don't want spoiled. It's got a great story. It is one of the best games of the year. One of my personal favorite games that I've played in recent memory. But if you haven't played Bioshock Infinite, then I highly recommend doing so because it's fantastic. It's definitely worth checking out. And since I'm such a huge Bioshock Infinite fan, I was really anticipating this DLC. But then I saw the Metacritic rating and I saw what everyone's been giving it. I became pretty damn nervous. But even with all that said, I decided to check it out for myself. And I'm so glad I did. But before I get into what I enjoyed about my experience with this DLC, I want to kind of talk about some of the problems that some people have had with Burial at Sea. Some have said it's too short, it's only 90 minutes. It's not only 90 minutes, as if you actually play it right. As long as you just don't do like a straight run through, it's going to take you about 3 to 4 hours. At least it did me. Albeit I did beat Burial at Sea in one sitting. 3 to 4 hours is okay for a DLC. I don't know what some people were expecting. I guess they were expecting like a full-fledged game or something. It's a DLC. It's meant to be short. And that's one of the reasons why I don't usually buy DLCs, is because, well, they feel tacked on, they're too short, and above all, there's just not that much meat there. But Burial at Sea, I didn't feel that way about it. Now, one of the other problems that some have had with Burial at Sea is that some basically like to say that everything feels scripted. All the situations that you're put in, or the dialogue that you hear from, just random NPCs, it seems staged. Well, fair enough, but a lot of those critiques could very much be applied to Bioshock Infinite. So I don't really understand how it was okay in Bioshock Infinite, but it's not okay here. Now, personally, I didn't really feel that way in Bioshock Infinite, and nor did I feel it here. If there was any kind of hint of that, I just had to kind of remind myself, okay, I'm playing a video game. I mean, so things are obviously going to be scripted. They are the way they are because, well, they were written that way, or they were programmed that way. That's what video games are. Now, while playing Infinite and while playing Burial at Sea, I didn't feel that way all the time, but there were little moments, here and there that kind of made me feel that way. But like I said, it didn't bother me because it's a video game. Now, I haven't actually read about anybody complaining about this, but since the DLC is $15, I would presume that some have complained that, since the DLC is 3 to 4 hours, it might not be worth the price tag. Now, if someone were to bring that up, I wouldn't necessarily argue with them because $15 for 3 to 4 hours is a little steep in my opinion. But if you pay $20 for the season pass, you will not only get episode 1, you also get episode 2, and you also get these little horde maps. So if you're actually going to buy this, that would definitely be the way to go because, well, if you pay $15 for episode 1, then you turn around and pay $15 for episode 2, that's just going to be a little too pricey. But enough dilly-dallying. What do I think about Burial at Sea? Well, I'm going to start with the writing. The writing as a whole, although I didn't find it to be as enthralling as Bioshock Infinite's, I still believe that the writing in Burial at Sea is still very much engaging. The game did a great job with keeping me engaged, and I was very much interested in seeing what the big reveal was going to be at the end of the game. And it does pay off. Now, if there's any problem with the ending, which I will not spoil, is that the ending did kind of make me reevaluate a few things. And I'm just going to kind of leave it at that. But one thing I must touch on and this is one of the things I really liked about Burial at Sea, is that we get to see an entirely different version of Elizabeth. She's definitely not the same Disney-like princess that we saw in the previous installment. She's much darker, she's much tougher, and furthermore, I really enjoyed seeing that aspect of her character. Some might not, and that's perfectly okay. I can understand why, but I liked it, and that's all that matters to me. As for the gameplay, it mostly reverts back to the first Bioshock. There's a scarcity of ammo and health, the enemies are much faster and are harder to shoot, but there have also been some gameplay elements that have been brought over from Bioshock Infinite, those being the use of Skyhook, the same kind of vigors, and Elizabeth herself. There's really no need to really get inside the mechanics of the gameplay because, well, one, already did in my Bioshock Infinite review, and two, if you're watching this or you plan on playing Burial at Sea, you already have to own Bioshock Infinite, so therefore you already know what the gameplay mechanics are like. However, I will say, since the gameplay kind of reverts back to the first Bioshock, it is a bit more challenging than Infinite's, because Infinite was very easy. I didn't mind that because it was kind of a breeze. I just wanted to enjoy my experience, and therefore, since it was so easy, I was. But this one's more of sort of, I don't want to say survival horror, but it is more on the survival side. Like I said, health is limited, and so is ammo. However, Elizabeth, she will hand you some supplies if you need it, but with that said, it's not as prominent as it was in Bioshock Infinite. But what I really, really love about Burial at Sea is that even though we've gotten hints of it before in the past, this really is the first time that we get to experience Rapture before it became the underwater dystopia that we all know. There is a nice portion of the game where the player is able to explore little bits of Rapture, and I really, really like that. I wish there were more of that, but what I got, I am satisfied with, and hopefully in episode 2, there'll be a little bit more of that, because, like I said, I really love that aspect of it. Definitely one of the highlights of the game for me, and yeah, I really, really liked it. And I must say, despite what I said before about Rapture at times feeling scripted, I'm not saying that as a bad or a good thing, I'm just saying that. When it actually doesn't feel that way, it feels convincing. It does feel like I am looking at Rapture before it became the underwater hell that we all know and love. Overall, as a DLC, Burial at Sea is really good. I really liked it, I really enjoyed it, and it's something that I can see myself revisiting every time I play Bioshock Infinite. So I'm going to give Burial at Sea a 4 out of 5. I think it's a nice little companion piece to Bioshock Infinite, so I highly recommend it if you're a fan of Bioshock Infinite. If you're not a fan of Bioshock Infinite, then by all means, it's not your thing, so skip it. But if you are, then definitely check this out. I'm Colyn Kirkland, and thank you so much for watching.